Eagle Community Television presents Community Connection with your host, Mike Cooper.
Hello and welcome again to Community Connection from Eagle Community Television. Thanks for watching, and thanks as always to our producer, Jeff Durall. We're at Fort Hays State University on campus in Malloy Hall and in the band room of the music department at Fort Hays State University with one of the members of the Hays City Band, or Hays Summer Band, if you will, Matt Romey, who is a Hays resident and a Fort Hays State student who's soon to be on to a new career, which we'll talk with Matt about. But if you would, first of all, Matt, tell us a little of the history of the Hays City Band.
Well, the Hays City Band has been around for a long time. I talked with Lyle Dilly, a big name in music around these parts. And when he came here in '61, the city band was well established already. So at least the 60s, most likely quite a ways before that as well. And it's just been going ever since. So it's been
I'm glad you mentioned Mr. Dilly because he is a longtime conductor of the Hays City Band. Enjoyed his work with the band for many, many years. This is prior to your time, Matt, but there was a time when in Hays at Frontier Park there was actually a band shell,
right.
Which I'm sure Mr. Dilly probably referred to from time to time, where the band played until it became in disrepair and eventually was torn down. I think it was, as I was trying to remember, I think it was in the place where the pad is now, or one of the shelters in that north area of the park. But that was the home of the Hays City Band for many, many years. Summer band concerts in general really have a long history in this country, don't they, Matt?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a really common practice for most cities to put together some sort of a community ensemble. And kind of what makes Hays unique is it's not so much a city band in so that it's sponsored through the city. Like most city bands will get some sort of funding through the city, whereas Hays, we do it all through the university. The conductors are provided through the university provides the music, the equipment, so it's kind of unique how we have it here. But
so you could really call it a Fort Hays State summer band, couldn't you?
We really could, yeah.
How about music selected for concerts? Now, I know you're not involved directly in that. Dr. Jeff Jordan, who's director of the bands, and Dr. Lane Weaver, who directs the athletic bands at Fort Hays State, have most of the input, but they do get input from the players, right?
Yeah. Dr. Jordan usually goes into every summer with a pretty clear idea. He's really good about being organized on that. But, I mean, even last summer I suggested a piece and he let me conduct it with the band. And so, you know, certainly open to suggestions. But no, Dr. Jordan always does a really good job of finding a diverse program with just a lot of different styles of music. And just, it's good music, good to hear, good to play, good all around.
And of course, much of it is traditional when you go back to marching or patriotic or things like that might fit in with a summertime atmosphere.
Right.
Plus, you've got to consider all ages too, because with the youngsters out of school, they're going to have a chance to attend these concerts as well.
Yep. And he does a good job. I mean, you know, we'll play things, you know, highlights from My Fair Lady, you know, we'll catch that. And then sometimes he'll try to throw some newer stuff in there. There's arrangements churned out all the time of, you know, highlights from pick a movie, you know.
If we were kind of declaring a kind of a perimeter here, would it be something that's a little lighter, say, than maybe a traditional concert at Beach Smith or something like that?
Certainly. It's a lot more laid back. The music that the summer band performs is not likely to be the stuff that'd stretch your ears. So and it's not to say that we don't get into some of that. We do play a lot of staples in the band repertoire. We do get to some of the just main pieces that a lot of high schools and some college bands around the country and world play. So,
What about band members in the summer band?
we are made up of amateurs, professionals, and everything in between. So, I mean, we are blessed with a great, great staff here at Fort Hays State, and a lot of those faculty members, when they're in town, they take the time and they play with us. The students who are still in town over the summer will usually show up, they'll play. We get some high school students, occasionally some middle school students from just local areas. In fact, we have a bass clarinet player out of Stockton who drives in for these things. And so, yeah, I mean, and then we get what I think is really cool is just some community members, and they play once a year, and this is it. So, and I think that's great that, you know, some of them, they look forward to it, you know. This is the highlight of their year, you know. They get to play their instrument again, so.
Diverse backgrounds as well as diverse ages.
Definitely.
Concerts taking place for summer. The one that begins is usually on the quad here at Fort Hays State, and then you move to Ellis for the concert, which was last week, as a matter of fact. And then coming Waukene this week, and then the wrap-up of the season is the traditional historic Fort Hays concert for the 4th of July.
That's correct.
Talk about the Ellis concert particularly, because this was an area where Matt kind of got involved a little bit more than he was expecting, perhaps?
Just a little bit.
Tell us the story, Matt.
Well, Dr. Jordan is out of town. And so, but we knew that going into the season. What we didn't account for was Dr. Lane Weaver getting sick.
Dr. Weaver was the backup.
Right.
Dr. Jordan, of course, with his child, who in music went to Carnegie Hall for the big Hays High concert tour that they did here with Johnny Matlock, the director. But so Dr. Weaver phones in sick, then what?
Apparently, I'm the backup.
Well, you were going to conduct one anyway, weren't you?
Right, yeah. And in fact, I'd even had a solo piece that I was playing. I was playing the Weber Concertino for clarinet.
Ah.
So I'd been involved anyway, but, and I've been fortunate to have quite a bit of conducting experience here. And unfortunately for the band, they stuck them with me.
But boy, trial by fire, right?
Definitely. I found out Monday morning that I would be conducting the band on the Tuesday concert. And how it's structured is we have Monday rehearsals and Tuesday performance.
Oh, wow.
So I had about 8 hours to prepare for a rehearsal.
There's a short window if I've ever heard of
and
one.
then get ready for a concert the next night.
Well, and you also have the logistics involved here too, right? That was
Yeah.
a challenge itself.
Yeah, getting set up in Ellis, getting the equipment out to Ellis, and then just, it was the thermostat on the building read 104 degrees when we got there, so you know, not necessarily ideal, but the band played really well. It was a good show. So.
And of course, gave you a lot more experience in
Oh,
directing than you had thought you were going to have, right? Talk about your path to Fort Hays State. Hays High grad. Was this a logical choice?
Oh, definitely. I knew early on in high school that I wanted to do music, and I'd been talking to Craig Monteifel, the director there. Yeah. And you know, we were talking about college options when the time was getting there, and you know, Fort Hays is certainly a viable option. The faculty here is world class. I mean, just the performing backgrounds they come from, all of them very extensive. I mean, you'd be lucky to get this much diversity and this much talent anywhere in the faculty. And because Fort Hays is a Division II school, it's a little smaller. You get so much one-on-one time with them. Fort Hays is really what you make of it in terms of an education. And if you go and make every opportunity for yourself, you can do things that, you know, most people would have to wait for a master's or even a doctorate degree to try to do. So it's really cool.
With the faculty and with the opportunities, and again with the high touch, if you will, that President Hammond has alluded to from time to time, it certainly does make for one of the best music programs in the Midwest, in my opinion. Okay, instruments, what do you play?
I primarily play clarinet, and then I also play saxophone, especially in jazz settings.
So you work with Brad Dawson then in the jazz concerts?
And that's also part of what got me to Fort Hays is I actually played with the jazz bands here starting my sophomore year of high school.
When you were in high school?
I got roped in, and he let me audition into the second band, and then I worked my way into the top band over time, and so.
Clarinet, saxophone, which is the favorite?
I'd say it depends on the day. It's hard to choose.
With the choices that parents have for their youngsters beginning in music, how do you make a choice? Why were those instruments selected necessarily, Matt?
Clarinet was something I had an interest in just even in early elementary school. I thought it was a really cool instrument, and so I pursued it. And then when beginning band hits in 6th grade, my parents were very, very nice, and they bought me one. And so that's how I started on clarinet. And then saxophone I just kind of picked up over time on my own on the side. But, you know, it really depends. I mean, if a kid has an interest in an instrument and they're physically able to play it, I mean, you know, you don't want a kid that tall trying to play a tuba.
Right.
You know, as long as there's a reasonable shot at them being successful playing it, you know, try.
And the wonderful choices. The middle school instructors, high school instructors such as Craig Monteifel and such, can really help direct children to instruments that might be appropriate that they'll really enjoy.
Right. Well, and I know, and personally speaking, the middle school here under Marcus Bishop, they actually go through something of an instrument trial. They have all the woodwinds and all the brass. And so, you know, they'll have you try to buzz on a brass mouthpiece, and if that works for you, then there's some potential. Some people can't make a noise on those, but then they can go and play a flute really well. So that's how they kind of figure out where you might have your best chance of success. So.
Or in our producer's case, Jeff Durall, when you're banging on the trash cans around the house, you get the kid a set of drums, right?
Right, logical choice, really.
Absolutely. So what's the difference between conducting and playing in the band?
It's really just a shift in responsibilities. In the ensemble playing, your role is kind of just to maintain what's already going on. I mean, the conductor sets a tempo. It's nice if you keep it. And obviously you have to play the part on the page because, you know, conducting doesn't make any sound. So it's if you're in the ensemble, it's up to you to make it sound good and to try to interpret whatever the conductor's giving you at the time. And then, as I found out, as a conductor, the clearer you can be, the better, because that ensemble is just as eager to reciprocate what you're trying to give them. But if you're really vague or not clear, well, they're going to try to give you what they're seeing, but it may not be what you're after.
So it's a great relaljelationship then, is what you're saying.
It is.
Beyond, between the two. What's your music goal eventually, Matt?
I just want to teach. You know, I'm not terribly picky on, you know, whether that's middle school, high school, maybe even land a college gig someday. But I love teaching, and I've, again, been fortunate to have quite a bit of experience even at Fort Hays. Well, for example, there was a semester that Craig Monteifel was out with back problems, and I ran the jazz band in his absence. So that was on me start to finish.
Wow.
So, another trial by fire.
Yeah, exactly. But a great learning experience at the same time.
And I think that's what really, that experience specifically is what solidified why I want to teach. Because, I mean, just seeing the kids go from start to finish, and, you know, they're reading the parts, they can't really play them all that well. Then you take them on a concert and they just knock it out of the park. You know, that's what I think is most rewarding.
That's where teachers are so valuable, is that spark that they can initiate into young people, I think. So your music goal then would be to teach. You got one semester left at Fort Hays State.
Right.
And 2 more concerts. The Wakini concert, where is that, by the way?
Wakini concert will actually be at the VFW.
Okay, VFW, inside.
Inside, air conditioning.
So enjoy the atmosphere.
Definitely.
And then, of course, the traditional concert. These are at 7.
7:30.
7:30, and the traditional concert at historic Fort Hays, 4th of July, with usually the hot dogs and the fireworks afterwards sometimes. So all of these events for the Hays Summer Band, along with director, conductor, and player Matt Romey from Hays. The Hays Summer Band, our community connection from Eagle Community Television.